And now it's time for Melody to read displeased resident comments on Public Works Bryant Avenue Switcheroo.
Hello. I first want to thank Public Works staff for holding this meeting and for your hard work on this project. Second, I'm wondering how long changes to Phase 2 have been in the works. It was quite surprising to see major changes announced 1 week before the project is scheduled to break ground, with limited to no public input in the changes. I appreciate the hard work that staff has put into this project, both for the original design and then I'm assuming to scramble and redo the design. Sorry that you have to take all the heat right now. I wish there was more public engagement, more than 4 days before the construction crews break ground. This situation could have been avoided.
We're rolling. We're rolling.
Rolling out. Tap, 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 tap. This is a real thing. Real thing.
None of you have the balls to stop this. Stop this.
I've got plenty of time. I have nothing else going on today.
We're in the Wedge neighborhood right now.
So, Melody, it's that time of year when I go outside dressed for like 20 degrees and I realize it's 50 degrees and I'm sweating. Have you adjusted to our new weather?
I have by not going outside today.
Well, that makes it worse because the last time you were outside, it was probably like 20 degrees. And so you think the next time I go outside 2 weeks from now will still be 20 degrees, but we're rapidly approaching 70-degree weather.
Tomorrow I know it's going to be 60, so I'm going to emerge from my apartment in 60-degree weather clothing.
Have you planned for it? Have you got your mind ready for it?
I'm extremely ready for it.
What are you going to do?
Go to the farmer's market. Just kidding, there isn't one. There isn't one for a while. There's no farmer's market for me to go to.
This is the Wedge Live podcast. I'm your host, John Edwards, and it's another edition of Monthly with Melody. I thought you broke your mug.
Jason Garcia was more than kind enough to give me theirs.
Jason didn't want their mug?
They are such a nice human being that they pass on things that they really should keep and deserve and give to other people.
This is a regifting situation, and I don't like it.
Okay. Monthly with Melody, where I share all the news for you and me. Monthly with Melody. Let's get down to it, John and me. 3, 2, 1, let's go.
It's a great theme song. We've skipped a few months, I feel like. Monthly with Melody is not living up to the way we've described it.
No, but it's been some months. I mean, there's been some other things that have been going on, specifically the DFL caucus and conventions. And like getting all those interviews out is much more important than talking with me. No sarcasm.
It's terrible, though. Talking to candidates gets repetitive. I enjoyed the most recent one that I did with Jeremiah Ellison because he is a very interesting and smart person. But aside from that, like, he has done the job. And so it feels like he has a lot to offer. Not to say like someone who is new and just running for office, that there's a flaw in their character for not having done the job. We need new people to run too. But like having done the job, you have more knowledge to offer the world. And so I find that conversation to have been very interesting. Recommend people listen to it. We talk a lot about government structure, which I'm kind of obsessed with because I think it's important. We're in a new government structure. Things are changing and not always for the better.
I was just going to say that I was also listening to that interview today before this one.
What did you think?
I thought it was great. And again, I think, it's just a different type of interview that you get to have with somebody like Councilmember Ellison that has just been in there for a while and can just answer questions differently. You all were talking about, you brought up how demoralizing it was, or maybe it was Jeremiah, but how demoralizing it was when Amir Locke was killed by the police using a no-knock raid after Mayor Jacob Fry had celebrated the fact that he had banned no-knock warrants, and how demoralized people were feeling. And I wrote that word demoralizing down for our discussion tonight because I feel like that is a common theme that I at least have been hearing and observing via people involved in the Bryant Avenue reconstruction plan. So
yeah, so demoralizing people can make them angry. It can make them apathetic and think, well, this doesn't matter. And what attracts me to local government is that I think it does matter. And I think like the people who hold these offices ideally are your neighbors and like share your values in a way that like someone elected to the U.S. Senate is like so far removed from your everyday life. I don't know. When I moved to Minneapolis, I felt like local government was a world of possibility, and now it feels very shitty. All the time I feel shitty about my local government.
should we back up and tell people what we're talking about if they aren't up to speed on the Bryant Avenue situation?
Yeah, so the Bryant Avenue Switcheroo, is that a good name for it? Mm-hmm. Similar to the Hennepin Avenue Switcheroo. I won't go back and rehash the Hennepin Avenue bus lane debacle, but Bryant Avenue had a council-approved design council approved it in 21. The mayor signed it in 21. They did phase 1 construction last year when Bryant Avenue South of 42nd. Phase 2 is going to begin Monday. Melody, as we record this on Friday, construction begins Monday. There are no finished plans for phase 2 because they have discarded the council-approved designs. They told us like last week, Friday, they uploaded a PDF, like 4 bullet points in a letter describing the changes, no graphics, so you could see it because there are no plans, Melody. There's no finished design, so we can't see it. And I was feeling so distrustful because like they must know. They must have more details than they're sharing. Because of course they would, right? You're starting construction on April 10th. Of course you have more details than you're sharing. Apparently they don't have any finished design, so they can't share it. So I don't know whether this is incompetence or malevolence. I'm very frustrated, and I'll go in a little to what has changed. So there was traffic calming chicanes. So there's a little wiggle to the street. That's what a chicane is. You go right, a little bit left. And that motion of like diverting drivers from going in a straight line calms the traffic a little. They've moved the parking to one side. We've lost some green space because they moved the bike lane next to the street. They've added 3 feet of concrete next to the street. So the boulevards are getting smaller, which means less green space, less space for planting. They can't tell you how long the crossing distances are because, again, they have not finished the designs and construction begins on Monday. So there's number one, the city council controls the streets. They approved a design, and now Public Works has substantially discarded that design in a way that I think needs council reapproval. And like, how does the public even give feedback on a plan that isn't finished, design that isn't finished, and construction begins Monday? I don't know what the way for the public to get feedback on that is. We don't know what we're getting. They're designing on the fly. Should I play audio from the, who was it? Jennifer Hager from the city's Public Works Department.
We are working on it. And yes, we will be bringing out more graphics and sharing this information. As we noted from the beginning of this conversation, we are working very, very quickly. This is very much a design build situation at this point, and we are still working on a lot of details. So more information is going to be coming out.
That was yesterday, Thursday. Construction begins Monday. And the Public Works has decided we can do our own thing. And by the way, it's not finished yet. Well, city ordinance says the council controls the streets. And they say, well, this is not a substantial change, and therefore we don't need council approval. It's a power grab, and it sets precedent for future streets. Public Works can do whichever mayor we have at the time can disregard what the council has approved and do their own thing. And they will. The council is slowly losing even more power than we thought they had when we enacted the strong mayor form of government. And here's another someone on the call, Carla, on yesterday's call, describing how this is demoralizing, Melody. Not demoralizing Melody, but demoralizing, Melody.
Margaret Anderson Keeler, has approved this without any community input, and it's just, it's tarnished Public Works' reputation. And I think it's entirely understandable that people can't trust this leadership in this team anymore, because what happens when the next street is being rebuilt and we all submit our comments and faithfully fill out the surveys, and then one or two powerful, well-connected people have the ability to change things at such a last minute.
I've gone on such a long rant, Melody, and I will let you speak shortly, but let me explain what the arguments are for why they're changing it. So they pose some fire trucks and some plows out there. Like when you're the city government, you can say, hey, let's bring a fire truck out here for a photo shoot. And at the height of the snowfall, they took photos of a fire truck. Streets got very narrow on a lot of streets in Minneapolis, maybe all of our streets. And so, yeah, it was a tight fit for the plows. We had a lot of snowfall. So they showed some of those photos. They say, well, there are driveways. Bryant has a lot of driveways because some of the blocks don't have alleys. Every house to the north of 38th Street has alleys. The blocks that are included in Phase 2 are Lake Street to 42nd Street. So out of 12 blocks, 8 of those blocks have alleys. I don't understand why you couldn't do, if it's all about the driveways, why you couldn't do the chicanes, the design you had previously on that stretch to the north of 38th Street.
Yeah, so it was emergency street, emergency vehicle access. There might be, again, we don't have, I wanted to nuance what you were saying about we don't have any graphics. They did share some graphics of the plan.
They showed one block.
But it's not the usual, massive graphics that we usually get. So
in 2021, we got a PDF with all 12 blocks.
Yeah, so we don't have anything like that. And again, we can't, John and I can't get more detailed than this because we don't have the plans and they don't have the plans. But there is, if you are an emergency, the streets need to be a certain width legally. And so
for snow emergency.
Yeah. And so they kept saying at the stakeholder meeting that was held on Thursday, April 6th, which was supposed to be just like a construction update meeting, but was taken over. I shouldn't say taken over, was attended by over 130 people. They were talking about this fire truck access thing. One of those photos included a street where somebody was illegally parking on the other side of the street. So that is also something to consider, that oftentimes when they were talking about some of the car related issues, it was because it's just because of driver error or driver behavior. And so that was something interesting to me as a pedestrian and a bicyclist that I heard. I was like, so are you correcting these plans because of your assumed poor driver behavior? But, if that street, because I've heard this, and they seem to be apologizing for it. If that street is actually not wide enough to legally be allowed, that's one story, but we don't know if that's true because we don't have any of the dimensions in front of us to be able to say that.
So a combination of, can I call it historic snowfall, poor plowing, so bad job by Public Works, bad job by people parking their cars, and historic snowfall have combined to get Public Works out there to do a photo shoot with a fire truck and say, see, we can't do this design that the city council approved in 21. The streets have become too narrow.
Yes.
We're going to do our own thing, and we don't yet know what we're doing. Construction begins Monday. Somebody was saying, this must be expensive to do a construction project like this. You don't have the designs ready, and you're handing them to your contractor as you go. How much does that add to the cost?
The people on the call on Thursday, they were all, management and project management teams involved in this project. They said it's not going to cost us any more additional funds, and that they had the funding all figured out. And
to scrap a design and come up with a whole new design, that sounds like a lot of staff time, either city staff or your consultants.
Well, see, this is an interesting argument that I'm going to now engage you on, because they're arguing that it's not a substantial change. So they would argue that it's not going to cost that much money because they're not doing that much changing. So I think we also need to have a working definition of what is considered a substantial change in a design, because we had this discussion with Hennepin Avenue as well. Not necessarily around what is considered a substantial change, but people in the Public Works office decided, at the last minute was like, well, no, we're going to change the bus lanes are not going to be 24/7 anymore. And then same here. Okay, the bike lanes and the sidewalk, the way that it looks, south of 42nd Street right now, that's, we're just going to change that, now up here because of why? Because, because of the fire truck access thing, which could be a total Public Works mistake. It's hard to know without seeing the new design. But then also we have the issue of so this is before my time, John, and I'm going to rely on you for laying down the facts. But as I understand it, there was a lot of contention around this plan prior to what happened this week. And this was before Southwest Voices was in action, before I had this job. So I wasn't, digging through all this stuff all the time. And so then knowing that the Southwest Business Organization and East Harriet Neighborhood Group, they were last minute trying to get a letter of support for these changes. That made my spidey sense go way ding. That's the official sound of spidey sense. So there's all of that too. This is a messy situation.
So it's the usual thing with the street reconstruction. Some people don't like it. I'm going to have to park differently. You're taking away some of my parking, even though you can show me a study that this amount of the parking on the street isn't used. And so therefore it's not as big a deal as you're saying. People will claim businesses will be closed because we lost parking on Bryant Avenue. So I thought of it as a low level controversy, but it was approved by the council in 21. And so it kind of faded from memory, and everyone who commented and said, yeah, I'd love to see this, please do it. There's no reason for them to think it's a live issue anymore. They think it's a done deal. But meanwhile, the appropriately named Roger Worm of the Southwest Business Association is working with the East Harriet Neighborhood Org. But I heard from someone who attended one of the meetings is that, Roger Worm at this meeting is well, I can't have this letter look like it's coming from me. I need you to sign on to it. Basically as explicit as that. Well,
and it says that in the meeting notes, Roger Worm will draft letter.
Right. But he had basically come out explicitly and said, I need this to look like it's coming from more than me. My question is, how did he know that this letter would be meaningful in February of this year? How did he know that? Here's where we get into conspiracy theories, Melody,
Well, no, we have another, mystery, John and Melody solves a mystery. I asked Public Works, this will be in an article next week, the week of April 10th, since we're straddling 2 weeks here. I asked Public Works about when this decision was when this discussion happened to make changes, and they said January of this year, and that's when Roger started was going to came to the meetings, and then he got added. Well, he always comes to I shouldn't say I know his attendance record, but
so we could simplify it by saying Public Works. The word from them is we decided to think about these changes in January, right? That's when they start thinking about the changes.
That's what they told me as a reporter via, submitted questions. They said January of this year.
And who can say what the truth is? So January, they say, maybe we'll do this. In February, Roger Worm is worming around and is hey, let's get this letter sent. And so what did Roger Worm know that the rest of us didn't know, that he thought, I need to send this letter?
Well, it's interesting you say that. He has met with representatives from Public Works about Bryant Avenue before and tells people on the East Harriet Neighborhood Association that he does. So he's well wrapped into this conversation. And I will say the president of the Southwest Business Association, we had a conversation, and like that organization has not officially passed any official letter or anything. They haven't officially done anything in, like, they didn't vote on this letter, you know. But Roger Worm often comes to the East Harriet neighborhood associations, like, kind of on behalf of the South. It's like, how do you know when your hat is on or off for the business association?
Yeah. Somebody who lives on Bryant Avenue, the part that's being reconstructed this year, but there are no designs for it, so who knows what's going to happen. He said that in the initial plan for Bryant, they had reduced the parking more and kept it two-way, because one of the changes that's happening, it's going to be converted to a one-way street. And so that initial two-way design that reduced parking further, they moved away from that to a one-way to make sure they included as much parking as possible. So how much of this is a result of compromising the design so they could retain more parking?
They don't get any, there's no more parking with this plan.
That's what they say, but they don't have any designs, and they're using the phrase about the same, something like that. Again, I don't trust my government anymore, Melody. It's very sad.
That's fair. You know what I did? Okay, so we went to that stakeholders meeting on Thursday, and I took note of there was a lot of comments in the chat, and I put them in theme, and some big themes that came up with people was this trust issue. And I think one of that audio clip that you played earlier, I think that person says it much more clearly than I ever could, but just kind of that lack of trust now when we go forward with other public projects.
This last minute switcheroo, and I am going to go into the Hennepin details. We had a staff recommendation on Hennepin Avenue for many months. We had a years-long process. Margaret Anderson Kelleher arrives in, like, I don't know if it was March or April. So she's been there about a year. So last year, around this time, Margaret Anderson Kelleher comes into the job and, like, well, you've been arguing for the need for bus lanes, full-time bus lanes on Hennepin for months now with data and saying how it would be harmful to transit if we don't have full-time bus lanes. Well, I don't agree, and for no apparent reason, 2 days before the council committee votes on it, the public learns no longer full-time bus lanes. Big old Kelleher switcheroo.
Yeah, and I think another thing that bothers me just personally about these two situations happening almost back to back is what I think about is the designers that spent so much time putting these plans together. And like, even this driveway thing, the wider driveways, like, I don't know what's going on with that, and I don't want to judge anybody who's getting in and out of driveways, but like, I know that a very competent person made that plan and made driveways that I assume people could drive in and out of, like, at a decent angle, right?
We've been building driveways for hundreds of years at least.
You know, I don't want to assume too much out of our staff at the city, but like, I feel like we hire some pretty talented folks, and I would just feel so, like, I almost feel offended. And like, you're just going to throw it was that bad? Really? Like, is
that what you're taking out of the story, Melody, that you feel bad for the person who designed the initial driveways?
I'm an empathetic person. No, I'm just saying, like, how could there was a lot of work and time and talent that went into those plans, and for them to just get scrapped, and for them to say, like, oh, there's all these issues with this plan that we couldn't foresee in the past, is like, that is making a statement on the people that designed it in the first place. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think that's rude. I think that's, I would say that is rude.
The staff who worked on the Hennepin Avenue redesign is gone from the city, left shortly after Margaret Anderson Kelleher stepped in and basically dumped it. I don't know what she went through And I'd love to talk to her about it. I'd love to talk to a bunch of people at Public Works about it and like understand what is going on inside that department, because from the outside it looks like a dumpster fire.
Yeah, did you catch, I think it was Jennifer Hager that said, I know to the public this seems like it's really rushed, and it seems rushed to us too. Said it on Thursday, and I was like, oh, okay, so it's not just the public is sensing that it's rushed. And you also feel that way. Okay.
It's chaos. So my assumption was bad intent, and now I'm like 50% bad intent, 50% incompetence. And how much of that is just a result of Margaret Anderson Gallagher being a political hack and mucking around? I don't know. There's lots of hackiness going on in the Fry administration, in my opinion, Melody. I know you're not allowed to take opinions like that. I feel like we've talked just way too much about Bryant Avenue at this point. Do you have any closing thoughts before we move on to another topic?
This sets a interesting precedent about public engagement moving forward, but I hope that we can figure something out. I don't know. It's kind of a bummer of a story. Usually we come like there's more high energy. It's like laughy laugh. And here we're like, what?
I feel very high energy right now. Usually I'm falling asleep 30 minutes in.
That's because I'm still listing off all the farmers markets that are happening in the city.
Have we really lost all the no farmers market report at all?
It's just in between. The winter ones are over, and then the spring ones haven't started yet. I'm sure I'm missing one right now, and somebody's yelling to their Bluetooth speaker, the women farmers market opened, and you forgot to say it. So sorry to that person. Sorry.
Is there no East Isles farmers market this year? I heard that one was going away.
They're taking a hiatus, and hiatuses I think work because the Nokomis one took a hiatus last year, and now they are coming back. So this year. So I think they mentioned that in their, thanks for bringing that up. They mentioned in their statement that they're in that sidewalk area in the pedestrian mall. And I think it's hard for people foot traffic is an issue. I don't know. It's hard to get people's attention to come over there.
You want to talk about money and politics?
Wow. Money wins. Sure.
It's sort of related to Bryant Avenue. So this
is like, I have no idea what you're going to throw at me. So go ahead.
What prompted me to look into this? Oh, it was the email. So all of Minneapolis, you remember that outside independent expenditure group that kind of dumped a pile of money on the city elections in 21. Sent you a picture of the police chief like every week, a glossy photo of the police chief. And it was like, if you don't vote our way, you will lose your chief. And then a month after the election went their way, the chief retired.
All of Minneapolis is a broad-based effort to counteract the increasingly divisive and harmful political discourse that currently dominates Minneapolis elections.
Is that what they say about themselves?
I just looked it up. All of Minneapolis.org. All of MPLS.org. So
their main agenda is to combat divisiveness? That is a very lame mission statement. You have no values at all if your main objective is to combat divisiveness. But anyway, they spent $2.3 million, and they hid $1.2 million of it. The Chamber of Commerce, Minneapolis area of Chamber of Commerce, funneled $1.2 million through a state-registered committee, because you can do that. But it was basically the same as all of Minneapolis, just registered at the state level, because the reporting deadlines in 21 for state committees were January after the election for your one annual report. So nobody found out it had all come from the Minneapolis area Chamber of Commerce until after the election. The chamber also funded the $250,000 effort to give us a strong mayor system. Charter for Change was the name of that independent expenditure group. So Chamber of Commerce bought themselves a new government structure, mega wealthy donors giving $5,000, $10,000, $100,000 at a time.
Thought you couldn't do that.
Well, you can. If it's an independent group, you can give unlimited sums of
money.
Oh,
if you're a group.
To a group that will mail you a photo of a very popular police chief every week and say, we will take him from you if you don't vote for our slate of council candidates and the mayor. Not to mention defeating the Public Safety Charter Amendment. Since that time, we now have a an election about fighting against a Department of Public Safety, fighting against removing the officer minimum from the charter. We now have a Office of Community Safety. We've done that under the mayor's control because government structure. And we are further below the officer minimum than ever. So a lot of good the officer minimum is doing us. The line on that chart, steep down still. So the original point of this was money in politics. They are back for 23, polling people about what their issues are. So be on the lookout for glossy mailers. Chances are it's funded by a whole lot of Chamber of Commerce money, a whole lot of wealthy people giving $5, $10, $100,000 at a time. So it's that time of year, and it's the city council is all that's on the ballot this year. So they will focus their advertising in those races, and all bets are off. They could just dump an extreme amount of money. Get out there and vote, and be skeptical of any glossy mailers you receive.
Yeah, how would listeners know, listeners and viewers, would know if they're getting something from all of Minneapolis? What words or things should they look for on the mailers?
So it'll say prepared and paid for by, or some similar phrasing.
Of all of Minneapolis, do they use any other?
So we don't know. They could create a whole new committee. The same people could create a new committee, and it could be so the group that was used to funnel money from the Chamber of Commerce and kind of hide the source until after the election was called Plan for Progress. So they could come up with some other name like Progressives for Minneapolis or something and say, and you won't know who they are until whatever the reporting deadline is. But basically, if you're getting frequent glossy mailers supporting a candidate, and it's not coming from that candidate, not to say that candidates themselves aren't funded by, rich people, but at least there's a limit. I think it's like $600 you can give to a council candidate in an election year. So there are limits there. You can't give $5, $10, $100,000 to candidates like you can to these outside committees. They could just bury us in mail.
The website I have no official opinion on allofminneapolis.org, but they have a news section of their website where they just link you to the latest news. And so some of the latest news is something about the consent decree, which I'm just going to stop talking about this. Time out. Councilmember Ellison said that they aren't supposed to use the word consent decree. Why?
When people talk about consent decrees, they are usually talking about federal Department of Justice.
Oh, and we haven't got
settlements with cities about their police departments.
And
so just state. as a way to, I don't think this is an official distinction. It's just to avoid verbal confusion about when people talk about the DOJ settlement and the settlement with the state of Minnesota. Just so people know they are different things. In effect, they are both court-in-court settlements about our racist police department. One thing I wanted to do was have Taylor Darlene come on and talk about her experience at the DFL Feminist Caucus takeover, which seemed like a mess. I don't know why the worst people in Minneapolis showed up to the DFL Feminist Caucus resuscitation party, but feels like maybe it's meaningful. I don't know. They seem to think it's important. It was weird. Were you following that at all?
No, I missed that, and now I'm just angry.
It's like it's a bunch of fry people, I think.
Men men can totally show up, but not feminists.
Yeah, it was a bunch of fry guys,
not angry
collection
hippie,
of fry guys.
Lesbian, not the typical feminists that would show up.
Did you
Did
read
they come just to start? No, I didn't read anything about it.
So there was a Facebook call to action, the DSA is coming, the socialists are coming to take our feminist caucus. Everyone show up. Here's the slate of candidates. One of them was Alicia Gibson. It was basically a clown car of the worst people in Minneapolis, Melody, I assure you. I know you're a straight newsman, as I like to call you.
That is what I am.
It truly was the worst people in Minneapolis politics.
You
So
do need to bring Taylor on.
Yeah.
We need the gossip. Or just like the straight facts of what happened.
Well, I invited her to come to this, but I did it last minute, so I didn't get a response. But so we probably won't talk about it. But
that's a bummer. Had I known, I would have gone over there myself in Loring Park and gone, knock, knock, Taylor.
It was one of those things where I would check in with Taylor and go, is this still happening? At like 9:30. Like it had been going on for hours and they're still like registering people. One of those interminable party events. I had already been to one this week. I went to the Victor Martinez, deciding how many of his delegates were fraudulent signups from the same IP address meeting, where the Minneapolis DFL decided to both throw out all of his fraudulent signups, or apparently fraudulent signups, but also allow the Ward 5 Credentials Committee to decide on the day of the Ward 5 convention whether they would accept them, which Jeremiah Ellison is not pleased with, I learned on the podcast. Like, his position is the Martinez campaign signed up a bunch of people without their consent and is now going back to them and is like, hey, we need you to get out there. Like, basically submitting a list of people you think might support you, like members of his church, for example. And then you can do the work in the months between caucus day and the convention to say, hey, you can come to this thing. We signed you up for it. Get out there. Another thing I've heard from people around the Ellison campaign is that they're talking to people on the Martinez delegate list. And like 1 week they'll say, no, never heard of it. Didn't sign up for this. And they come back around and talk to him again. And apparently Victor has gotten to them and like, I don't want to talk to you. Things like that. So,
God, what a mess.
Yeah.
What a
also,
mess.
we have this Ward 10 candidate that has no website, but did very well on caucus night. Like, arrived the day of the caucus, managed to do very well with the signups, but his website is down ever since I pointed out his name was misspelled. No way to contact him. Listen, candidate, however your name is spelled, come on the Wedge Live podcast. We'd like to talk to you and learn what you are all about and congratulate you on your strong caucus night performance.
Nasri Warsame, right? Warsame? Nasri Warsame?
Nasri Warsame.
Nasri Warsame.
Or as his logo spelled it, Nasir Warsame.
Okay.
Who can say?
Well, we, Southwest Voices, would also like to do an interview with you because we already interviewed Councilmember Aisha Shugtai, who, so we're trying to interview all of the candidates who are running for office. So, and that stands for anybody in the Southwest area. We've reached out to everybody, but yeah, Nasri Warsame, we didn't have contact info for you. So, but we're here.
I reached out to Scott Graham, who's running in Ward 7. They politely declined.
Did Councilmember Koski decline?
I haven't asked Koski because
is it too far out of your... Oh, you're not... that's so not wedgy.
Don't limit me geographically.
Well, I am.
Don't do that. No, it's uncontested. I would like to talk to Councilmember Koski, and she is invited. If she is listening, be in touch. I will probably be in touch at some point. It's just that there are contested races in other places.
No, that makes total sense.
I'm looking to have the Ward 10 council member come on, and she will be coming on next week. I don't know when that episode's coming out, though.
I won't hold my breath. I won't anxiously await for it to come out.
Sounds like you're skeptical that she really will come on.
Oh my gosh, no. I was just trying to fill airtime. My gosh.
Okay. We don't need to do that, Melody. We have lots to say. We are high energy. We blasted out a whole half hour on the Bryant Avenue debacle.
I thought we were going to do the whole hour on Bryant, so I was ready to go deep. Sure.
Oh, I'm sorry for disappointing you.
I think the viewers would have and listeners would have liked us to take up a whole hour. I could have read off all the comments that people were sharing anonymously, of course.
We could do that at the end. It's a great way to get people to listen to the end.
No, I totally forgot about this. I have April Fool's jokes that I haven't been able to use that are hyper local.
It's April 7th, Melody.
I don't care.
This podcast won't come out until
I don't care.
I don't know when.
I don't care.
April 11th.
Don't care.
Well, We're doing my thing first.
Okay, but I'm looking up my stuff.
I picked up an edition of the Hill and Lake Press, the March edition, and
can you read me articles and I'll just listen?
I don't think I'm going to read the whole article. I don't want to give him that much airtime. One of the headlines is the bike lobby. And for those who don't know, the Hill and Lake Press is what I call the local paper of record for pretend environmentalists. They have been pushing this against the Minneapolis 2040 plan, which is a plan to promote pedestrianized, transit-friendly, densely populated, walkable cities. Good things, not bad things. And one of the headlines here is the bike lobby is destroying our environment. So you really know their environmentalism is real when one of their... Can you guess who wrote that, Melody? Headline, bike lobby is destroying our environment.
I'm a reporter. I feel like anything I'm going to say is going to be Roger Worm. I don't know.
Really? Would you be violating some ethical rules to play this game show I've created?
No, but I don't know. Because that sounds like an editorial. I don't know who would personally. No, I have no idea, honestly. Is it somebody really obvious?
Fairly prominent person. The most obvious person you can probably think of.
Lisa Goodman?
No, Lisa Goodman's not out there writing editorials.
Well, I don't know. You said the most obvious person, and I was thinking about the people you don't like, so I just guessed her.
If you listen to our 111th episode celebration, you would know that Lisa Goodman and I, at least on my end, are deeply infatuated with each other.
That's right. I forgot about that part. I don't know. John, tell me.
It's Carol Becker, okay?
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. The bike lobby is destroying our environment.
How so? What's the thesis statement?
Bike lanes are empty. They are causing... I haven't read it. I'm sorry. So...
It's a great headline, though.
I skimmed it, and I'm familiar with this style of argument from people like her, and it's basically like your empty bike lanes are slowing traffic, and therefore more emissions. I also think there's a section about hating buses. So it's basically like people on buses, people riding bikes are destroying our environment, or the people who don't exist riding bikes, the non-existent bikers who for some reason have created this all-powerful bike lobby to destroy our environment. Are the bad guys. It's weird. I don't know how many people are persuaded by that kind of argument. I think Carol Becker, if she wasn't deranged and out for my death and destruction, I would think is a good thing basically for our politics, because she's so over the top. Any person who hears her argument who isn't already like persuaded of the thing she believes is going to react and be repelled by her arguments, I think, because they make no sense. That's what I have to say. Also, there's a thing about the Pedestrian Advisory Committee. This is like a low simmering outrage among people of the lakes. Pedestrian Advisory Committee, which is made up of volunteers who like advocate for good pedestrian infrastructure in the city, wrote a non-binding resolution citing the destructive influence of people with wealth and privilege on city processes. So, I mean, that's a thing you could ignore. Like, that's an obviously true thing that I just, maybe I will choose not to talk about it because I am a person of wealth and privilege. But no, they are outraged by it, as if people with wealth and privilege could have destructive influence on our processes, Melody. As if.
I can't think of an example. I guess it could happen.
To be fair to them, it was referring to their people in their geographic region, which also I think is probably, it's true. This is a true statement. Sorry somebody said it out loud. But, you could always say it's my neighbors. It's not me. I'm one of the good ones. I'm not one of the destructive, wealthy, and privileged people. But that's what is outraging the Hill and Lake Press in the month of March. I don't have this month's issue. I went into the UPS store and I grabbed a copy from March today.
I love that. Thank you for reading me the headlines. That's really fun.
Yeah, and also they're very upset about the 2040 plan still. Every month in the Hill and Lake Press, still upset about the 2040 plan. So check it out. I'm sure the month of April, they will also be upset about the 2040 plan. So pick up a copy.
Is it a lot of editorials or is it also articles?
So it's a lot of opinion. It's so even the things that are even like the front page headlines, like I don't know if this is going to show up.
Yeah. Well, it's a big headline.
I'm guessing this is full of opinion. I don't really read the things.
Oh, wow. State policymakers aim to gut environmental protections to permit Minneapolis to proceed with 2040 plan without oversight.
Yeah, this is the thing that the state legislature is considering about basically not allowing NIMBY lawsuits against comprehensive plans that are very speculative in nature, because you can sue over individual development projects. I feel like we've talked about it on the podcast. You can go and review that episode. I find it to be very disingenuous, and I call it pretend environmentalism.
Can I read you some of my April or like Onion headlines?
You have Onion headlines?
Or like April, it wasn't April Fool's, but like here's one. City Council forms a Spice Girls group.
I don't understand. Why is that funny?
Like just imagine, okay, like let's say I made like a satire newspaper, like the Onion, and on the front cover it would be City Council forms a Spice Girls group. And then you would see individual people from the City Council as like Spice Girls or whatever, New Kids on the Block or BTS. So like,
can we workshop this April Fool's headline a week after April Fool's Day?
Yeah, and it can just be like a satire. Yeah, I have more that we need. I have more that we can workshop.
I don't want to let this one. I don't want to let this one pass without maybe giving you some pointers.
Please,
but
please.
Shouldn't it be girl group or like? So the way to write that would maybe be like white male city council members form boy band, and it would be Michael Rainville with like a New Kids on the Block haircut, something like that. Making it about the Spice Girls kind of confuses people. Maybe you could have said, because then people are thinking like, what do the Spice Girls have to do with it?
So we have to just make it really generic?
Yeah, like a girl group.
City Council forms boy band.
Or girl group, or Spice Girls tribute band.
Okay, I have to say what it is.
Yeah, because I don't know what a Spice Girls group is. I just feel like it's not specific enough.
Do you get is the concept funny?
I think the concept with a Photoshop would be funny.
Okay. Mayor says Minneapolis is back every 4 months.
Okay.
Minneapolis School Board shows up to contentious city council meeting for fun.
All right.
This one might get dark. Lakewood Cemetery is the neighborhood's best high-density housing.
Okay, I like that one.
Okay.
You could flip that one and give it a NIMBY angle.
Okay. Oh, right? Okay.
Like maybe, I don't know how to do it, but like people in the graves are upset about the new people being buried across the way. Like a family, like a large family being buried across the way. They're worried about traffic and parking. I don't know. So like grave, like a large family purchases a plot and it upsets the people buried across the street in the cemetery because they're just anticipating all the development when those people die and all the visitors and the traffic and parking and noise when they come, something like that.
Oh, that would make for a better article too, because then you could interview everybody. This is okay. I'll end with a really timely one. Local lady needs a ladder to get out of pothole on 36th Street.
Okay. Yeah. Shouldn't it be local woman? When you say local lady, it takes me out of the newsiness of it because no headline would say local lady, right? Do your headlines say local lady?
You see here, we got a local lady. She needs one of those ladders to get you out, you see? Oh gosh, golly gee, gotta get your camera. What?
Are those the 30s era headlines that you used to write for the Minneapolis Star?
Yeah, I had my press pass just like on my hat, embedded into my hair. That's what I should do. I should just go to the hairstylist and like forget the old press pass in the hat. I'm just like, just sew it into my hair. And then it's just always there.
Didn't you say you were going to read some comments, like Bryant Avenue comments? Is that still...
I was earlier. I mean, I could. Do you have any music to go with it?
I should. And now it's time for Melody to read displeased resident comments on Public Works Bryant Avenue Switcheroo.
How can this project be changed last minute from the plans, with extremely limited engagement and overturning the City Council's approval? Hello. I first want to thank Public Works staff for holding this meeting and for your hard work on this project. Second, I'm wondering how long changes to Phase 2 have been in the works. It was quite surprising to see major changes announced 1 week before the project is scheduled to break ground, with limited to no public input in the changes. I appreciate the hard work that staff has put into this project, both for the original design and then I'm assuming to scramble and redo the design. Sorry that you have to take all the heat right now. I wish there was more public engagement, more than 4 days before the construction crews break ground. This situation could have been avoided. Why have we waited for a construction meeting days before construction begins to tell the public about these changes? Can you explain the rationale for making these changes at the last minute? Hasn't Public Works already vetted and considered the challenges with each design element? Why the last minute substantial changes? Yes, moving transit 2 blocks is a big deal. I live between Lake and 32nd on Bryant, and frankly, hearing that you're still working on that design is extremely concerning. Can I do a few on trust?
I think this is going very well, Melody. Please proceed.
Trust. I'm really disappointed in the leadership of the Public Works Department for breaking public trust with this last-minute change. This sets a bad precedent. How can we trust this? I'm laughing, not crying. How can we trust this department? Do some people's voices carry more weight than vulnerable users? Backroom changes after a robust public process is bad governance, period. Sets a dangerous precedent. How can we provide meaningful input on a project that isn't yet complete or available for review? 2 question marks. I didn't bother giving feedback because I was happy with the design and had no indication that I needed to give feedback in order to prevent changes. When should we expect the designs to review and comment? It's disappointing the letter came out days ago, and we had to just try and imagine what the impacts would be without any visuals. Scene.
That's very good. I think that went well. That might be the most productive thing we accomplished today was that segment right there. So thank you to the writers responsible for all of those comments.
Oh yeah, just to clarify, if we lost track of that, because John and I threw a lot at you tonight, those were comments that were left at the stakeholders meeting on April 6th, and they were just left in the chat, and I just took note of some of the ones that...
Do you have any recommendations, Melody? I don't know do I usually ask you for recommendations? I'm just wondering what you're into lately.
I love that you ask people that question. I've been hearing that. Yeah, I think that's really great. When I had a podcast called Feminist Killjoys PhD, we did this thing called Reading, Writing, and Listening with Rachel and Melody. So we'd always ask each other what we were reading, reading, watching, and listening. I just sang my own theme song that explained what it was, and then I couldn't remember that it was reading, watching, and listening.
It's like designing driveways. The people who design the driveways don't necessarily know what's going on, and the people who write the theme songs don't necessarily know what's going on.
My gosh.
But,
oh my gosh.
Anyway, you like the segment, and you...
Yeah, you were asking, and I liked how you asked, if you watch video game, you were asking people, a really good assortment of things, what kind of stuff are you into? And then you listed...
It's basically not limiting it to books, movies, the usual things. Maybe you don't read a book. Maybe you don't do that. Maybe you just have a place that you walk to that is good. Things like an experience, anything in your life that other people can take up and will bring them joy.
I'm looking off camera because I've been making these little felt characters, these vegetable and fruit characters. I got them as a gift from somebody, and they're just like really adorable to do, and it takes a short amount of time, and they're very cute, and then people are very excited when you gift them. And so that's what I've been really into lately. And
is this about Christian fundamentalism? Because I think when I think of vegetable characters, I think of maybe a Christian message. Is that what this is about?
Yeah. So, you know, those little pamphlets that you would find like Jesus is coming to save you or whatever, those little pamphlets. Mm-hmm. So what I do is I fold them up really tiny and I stick them in the felt vegetable or fruit. And the seams are made to like not deteriorate right away, but deteriorate soon enough that after a couple handlings of the watermelon or the carrot or the donut, you know, it unfurls and then this like mini Bible comes out. So that is precisely what I am doing with them. But I've really been enjoying just like sitting and listening to podcasts and like making them and spreading the word.
Huh. Anything else besides your vegetable characters?
Oh my God, what do I do with my life? Yeah, I've been listening to Braiding Sweetgrass, which is like a book that all the white ladies read and listened to like 5 years ago, but now I'm doing it. I'm making a joke about white ladies more than the book, but it's about the indigenous food systems and like learning how food has come from the earth and how we should protect it. And it's cool. It's a great book.
Well, Melody, we've come to the end and it's still daylight outside. So you can get out there and enjoy some daylight. That's what I'll be doing.
Great.
Thank you for doing this. I think I had fun. I feel like I've got some tension relieved. This has been
did you get some Bryant energy out?
Yeah. I feel like it's been a good session here. I feel better about myself. I feel better about you. I feel better about my community. And I'm ready to face the world, thanks to Monthly with Melody.
That's great, John. It's great to hear.
Okay, this has been the Wedge Live Podcast. I'm your host, John Edwards. Thank you for listening.
Monthly with Melody, where I share all the news for you and me. Monthly with Melody. Let's get down to it, John and me. 3, 2, 1, let's go.
I've got plenty of time. I have nothing else going on today.
We're in the Wedge neighborhood right now, 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 right now.